Hello everybody, Grizzly Pig here. Welcome to today's episode. We are in Star Citizen and I have just bought an A2 Hercules. You can go and grab this over at Orison for just over 44 million AUEC. This is more expensive than the C2 and it comes in black, so definitely worth the extra money there in my opinion. This ship is very large and it is pretty much a multi-purpose. It's going to have a nice amount of firepower on the pilot seat. It's got some remote turrets. It's got quite a bit of HP. It's got big shields, a nice amount of cargo space. It's also a bomber, so we're going to get 4 bombs with that. We're going to see all this in the DPS calculator soon. Apologies, I forgot to press the record button when I was heading over here, so what you're seeing now is my return trip from the shop in the Cloud Rest region of Orison here. So hopefully still have some use if you're wondering how to get to this place to buy this ship. And now we're back at the hangars. We're going to have a look at what build we're going to run on the ship. We're going to tweak the guns and components to give us a build suitable for soloing combat missions. So let's cut over to the DPS calculator and take a look at that. And as usual, I'll leave a link for this in the description of the video. So here we are, we can see that the Hercules Starlifter has 112,000 HP just over. Also a notable 216 SCU of cargo, so that's very good. I've also changed out the stock shields for Parapet, so you have to go and buy those for 203,000 HP quadrant shield. We're keeping the stock power plants because our upgrade options are either Durango, it's going to give us the same amount of points, or JS 500 times 2. Since I don't have those and most people won't, I'm not going to go for that. For the guns, we're going to go 2 Galderines on the pilot controlled guns, and then on the remote nose we're going to use 2 Rhinos. This remote nose turret here is slaved to the pilot if someone is not using it, as you can see expressed by the fact that it's in the box here. That's going to give us 2,214 DPS. Also, I will note that I've ripped out some of the remote turret guns down here to bring up our total bullet load before we have to regen from about 116 to 225. So it's going to give us a longer fire time and ultimately a bit more DPS in the scheme of things. The gun loadout is kind of similar to the Corsair, although we are lacking 2 Rhinos and the weapon cross-section map is slightly different as well. And of course, this is a bomber and we have our 4 Colossus bombs right there. We're not going to be testing those out in this video, sadly. I want to see how this thing fights in combat missions. So with all of that done, on our power distribution, you can see with no coolers and less guns, we have been able to recoup some points back there, which is going to allow us basically to run nearly full thrusters. We are missing 4 points still, and we're going to run our shields on the minimum, which will give us the maximum amount of shield capacity, but we are reducing our regeneration capability. But since we've got such a big shield anyway, for the most part, we're not going to be running. And if we do, we can just, while we're turning our tail, scale back on the thrusters and all the guns, whatever, and put your points into the last 3 on the shield there to get you an extra 6-second reduction in recharge time. But generally, we're not going to be doing that. For the most part in the fight, we're going to need thrusters more, so we're going to run this build. Our signatures are absolutely massive right there, but we don't really care about that. This is a massive ship, so it is what it is. We're back in the game now. We're just going to go into the vehicles interface here in the Mobi-Glass and just do what we hypothesized in the DPS calculator right there to give us 2 Galderines, 2 Rhinos, and ripping off a bunch of other guns we don't need as well. And once we've done this, we're going to send the ship up and we're going to take a little look around. And as usual, I'm going to timestamp the video, so if you're not interested of the tour, then you can skip ahead. But of course, you really should watch it because you wouldn't want to get lost in this ship now, would you? So you can see our remote guns right there under the nose, and the Galderines are on top. Quite a tight gun arrangement, so we have to be accurate, but we're going to be able to do good damage with this. Here we're going to go into the elevator. You can find it here. Very simple. Let's go up and check out the lower deck where we're going to be able to store our cargo. What's really unique about this ship, as you're going to see, is that it's quite unique in that it has a front ramp and a back ramp that give you access into this area, both of them there. It's a little bit like an Idris in some ways, but obviously a lot smaller. I've somehow opened the back there by mistake, as you can see, and it's a little bit narrower than the front entrance. I think the C2 version of this doesn't have these railings here blocking the back entrance, and you can see that they are there for the 4 missiles. You wouldn't want to brush up against one of those and go boom, of course. You can see we also have a ladder to give us access between the 2 floors there in case the elevator glitches out. The top deck, by and large, is not usable space. There are some storage holdalls along there. Anyway, let's head over to the bridge. So it's a little bit of a run. If we get an ace pilot, then we're not going to be getting to that as quickly as if we are in a Corsair. We're in a bridge here, and you can see we've got engineering bay, random little storage here. You can definitely hide a couple of kilos of uncut slam if the authorities come on board. We've got our 2 pilot seats, and we're just going to get into the main pilot seat now, and we're just going to have a fiddle about with our power distribution. Don't know what it is with this patch, but at the minute most ships are showing that when you just first get into them, the components are actually offline when they're online. Sometimes you have to restart the ship or just click off and on the component again. I don't know why, but I put full power there into shields. I wouldn't recommend actually doing that. Just go for the thrusters. It's a bit bright outside, so the paintwork is not looking very dark. So I want to go and take this ship out for some missions and test to see what it can do. But before we do that, there's just one last thing I need to do. Aside from maybe grab a nice thumbnail right here, of course. The build on this ship isn't quite complete. We have actually tweaked about with the guns, but we haven't changed the shields out. So as it's definitely worth doing, I'm going to get that done before we do our combat missions. I'm heading over to Grim Hex. I'm going to call a hangar and show you guys where to get these, as you might want to buy these for future ships that also use size 3 shields as well. When you get in your hangar, take the elevator to the lobby, and when you're there, go past all the ASOPs and you will find the main elevator. It's larger than the hangar elevators, and we're going to go to the main concourse from here. There's only 2 options. Once you're out the elevator, go to the upstairs area where the habs are and find this door with the arrows above it. Follow it through, and eventually here we are at Dumpers Depot, and you can buy your 3 parapets from here. Buying 3 of them is going to cost you about 400,000 AUEC, so not the cheapest of components you can buy, but it is definitely well worth it for the extra shield we're going to get. We're now going to apply these onto our build. We're also going to rip our coolers off as well, and then that's us done. We are ready to head out and do some combat missions. So let's send the ship up and head on out. So I couldn't get an orange potential security threat mission to spawn, sadly. I don't know if it was bugged or whatever. So we're going to start out with a combat gauntlet scenario 6 mission. And I know this ship is going to have absolutely no problem at all doing any missions easier than this. And so for that reason, I'm not going to be showing the security patrol mission. That's the 74k orange mission, because I just know that's going to be way too easy for this. So of course we have 2 gladiuses to fight and a constellation. We're going to try the free gimbal mode and the fixed gimbal mode and see how they are. And as usual, when you are facing the constellation, you're going to want to put some extra power into your front shield. We're going to ignore the gladiuses and see if we can fight the constellation head on. Anyway, I'm going to have to do some cutting with this footage here, because although you might think I like the sound of my own voice, I don't like it that much. This video is going to be way too long if I show you me repositioning every time a fighter flies past. Everything I have to say about this ship does not need to be in a video that long. Our 2 Galdrines are not behaving themselves and sticking to the gimbal marker. That's not always the case, and sometimes it's just one and not the other. But to this detriment, I still would recommend using the free gimbal, because this ship is quite slow at pitching and yawing. Some of you guys still might favour this mode. So I am being a bit reckless in this mission here. Usually I will hide behind a rock and tease out the gladiuses and take them on first, but I've not done that here. I've just decided to go straight in and face tank the constellation. Quite a nice test actually, I really think, because it just goes to show this thing can tank, although it's taken a little bit longer than I'd hoped. Would have definitely been a better idea going for the gladiuses first. We're going to try the zoomed gimbal mode now. Doesn't matter what ship you're in, using the zoomed gimbal mode is always going to be really great, because the projectiles always meet at the intersect wherever you're focusing, doing some really nice damage focused in one spot. And with 2 Galdrines and 2 Rhinos, we're certainly going to be doing some decent damage there. We'll try fixed gimbal mode now on this constellation. It's going to be a bit tougher to use this with such a slow ship against lighter fighters, but with bigger targets like the constellation, it's definitely a viable gimbal option. And there you can see some of our projectiles are going astray, and I think that's probably the main reason why it's taken quite some time to get this constellation down. In a Corsair this would be over by now for sure. Sometimes they can just play up like this, and even in a Corsair sometimes for just no apparent reason it just takes absolutely forever, so there is a bit of that. I honestly think using the zoomed gimbal mode when you can against larger targets is definitely the play. You know 100% you're going to be able to land your hits and get the damage in, and also without a shadow of a doubt, fixed gimbal mode is going to be better than free gimbal mode against bigger targets. That higher fire rate really shines on ships like this with more shots in the barrel. As I said, definitely going to be harder to land on smaller fighters though. There's kind of a sweet spot with the yaw, pitch and roll. If you're in a really light fighter, sometimes you're just too sensitive and you miss your shots because you overturn. And the other extreme is if you've got a really slow ship like this, then you're just not going to be able to your pitch onto the target and keep the gimbal on track for very long. So this ship is definitely not in that sweet spot. We did finally manage to get that constellation down. Now we just got the fighters to deal with. What's going to be a trend here is that we'll get a few nice shots off, and then we're going to, once the ship has gone past us, spend the next 10 seconds just trying to get an angle again. There's a big downside there when fighting smaller ships like this. Even fighting bigger ships like the Constellation, you don't have the luxury of deciding exactly where you want to shoot the ship. Ideally, you'd want to hit a Constellation from the back, but with us being so slow, it's just not really an option. And considering these Gladiuses have been up for quite some time, I don't think we've done too bad. We haven't seemingly taken critical damage to any of the parts of the ship. And we're just about done here. So this ship has proven that it can do a 150k mission. That was very slow. I'm sure sometimes, or most of the times that I do this in future, it's going to be actually a lot quicker than this. But we've just been playing about, and now we are doing a 135k orange mission. Our first objective is to destroy the beacons, and this thing is really slow to the point where getting from beacon to beacon is actually not very quick and very fun at all. And our second objective was to search the area, and that amounted to nothing. So we move on to the third objective. We got a protect the ship task here with lots of different types of ships for us to have a little play with. Try the fixed gimbal mode on this annoying little bleater. Sometimes they're not really sure where they're going and they flail about all over the place. Makes it really tough to hit them sometimes. So I'm expecting that once we actually get some ships attack us, it's not going to take us long before we're going red, because we have had a couple of missile hits and we did take quite a bit of damage from those Gladiuses in the last mission. And in these missions, particularly the neutralised target mission, the ships have a tendency to really swarm all over you and do big damage, especially if you get unlucky and get a loadout of ships that have lots of ballistics firing at you. So I do like this ship. I'm glad I got it. However, I think there are better options for your money. I'm going to be showing one that I'm hopeful will be a better option and is a bit cheaper in a coming episode. You'll just have to look out for that one. I am effectively looking for an alternative ship to use to my Corsair in the event that my Corsair goes boom, and then while it's claiming, I don't have to hang about, just grab another ship and head straight back out there again. This ship, sadly, although it can do it, is not that ship. I'm just not impressed with the manoeuvrability of it and how the free gimbal works. Its DPS just doesn't seem to be as good as it even should be. I know it is lower than the Corsairs, but it still feels like it is lower than it ought to be with 2 Galderines and 2 Rhinos. And you could see there, just in the last 30 seconds, we were having an absolute nightmare trying to hit our targets, and it cost us a load of time, which is effectively time where we're getting hit with all sorts from loads of other ships. We might have been a little bit far out in our distance, but we still surely should have hit something. But there were no markers whatsoever. Anyway, I have to be fair to this ship. Its primary use is certainly not doing missions like this. It is a bomber, and it is also a cargo ship as well. That's probably the combined loop of where it is going to best perform. So the fact that it can do these missions, I will say, is nice. It's not very buggy at all. The worst thing that is happening here is sometimes our guns are not firing perfectly on point, and that's in free gimbal, and when you see that happen, it's actually very easy to spot. The ship itself looks really beautiful. It's one of my favourite looking ships actually in the game. It's just absolutely huge and majestic looking, and in the darker colour it really looks super nice, like the stealth bomber it's meant to be, but is not capable of doing, because it certainly isn't stealthy. Anyway, so based on these combat missions here, I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. But just quickly, I want to say something this ship is really good at because of its big cross-section. This warden in front of us, we are able to block it and freeze it in place almost. Not forever, but just a long enough moment in time so that we can fire loads of shots off. And the way you do this is just by fine tweaking your positioning while you're not moving anywhere, using your strafes, and also backwards accelerate if you feel you need some more time to get into that position. But yeah, very effective tactic on those wardens right there. So I think I've given this a fair score. This is just my opinion, and we've just been judging its performance in these missions and taking into account that this is not where it really is designed to be performing. I'm going to give it an extra 2 points. So it's an 8.5 out of 10 ship when you include all that it is designed to do. I'm not going to show any footage of me moving any cargo from A to B. Obviously, I don't really do cargo missions anymore. That's not to say that if you're doing one of these missions and you find a caterpillar and you scan it and you get lucky and get loads of gold on it, that it's not worth checking out and taking. Great ship for that. How do we look like at the end of these missions? Not in a great shape, to be honest with you. We've only done 2 missions, a 150k flight gauntlet mission and a 135k orange mission. And our front doors and our back doors have been blown off effectively. I would have hoped that it'd be in a bit of a better state than this, but we can always go back to the station and repair up, so that's not a big issue. I'm not going to do that though. I'm just going to ram this into an asteroid and get rid of it and take the Corsair back out again. In doing so, I will just claim this and then I can just leapfrog the 2 ships. Anyway, guys, I hope you found this interesting and useful. Please like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you all in the next one.